this is the pre-intro, because the intro that you're about to hear it's pretty long and drawn out. And I just want to say that this is not a normal episode of Coffee and Tea. It's not Coffee and Tea at all. And what we're going to be doing is talking about a self-help book that I read years ago and took some notes in. We're going to be breaking down the notes that I took and just sort of just giving our opinions on it. But the reason I wanted to give a pre-intro is because Coffee and Tea, which you're used to hearing, is meant to be fluffy and fun.
Yeah.
This episode is about personal development and is, in my opinion, meant to be fun. However, we are going to dive into some deep and heavy stuff.
Yeah.
I consider myself someone who, depending on my mood and where I am, sometimes I'm really not interested in hearing about certain topics. Mm-hmm. So in this episode, I just want to give you fair warning. There's going to be references to friends of mine who have committed suicide. Mm-hmm. There's going to be conversations about the Holocaust. Mm-hmm. And it's not all about that.
No.
The vast 90% of this is going to be uplifting and I think great personal development content.
Yeah.
I just want to give a heads up that for this episode, and if you see episodes like this in the future, that you know what you're getting yourself into. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I really hope you enjoy it. I'm really happy that Tashina was here with me because that was a surprise to me. Mm-hmm. She's a surprise guest or surprise co-host. Anyway, I really hope you enjoy this. Thank you so much. And if you don't want to listen or watch this, then just skip it. There'll be an episode of Coffee and Tea up tomorrow morning. Hello there, and welcome to the first and most likely only episode of a show that has not been named. I'm your host, Justin Mendez, and I guess we're both your hosts. We're both your hosts, but I'm Justin Mendez. This lovely human person is Tashina Combs.
Hi.
Hello, Tashina.
How's it going?
Well, I'd rather be sleeping if I'm being completely honest. We are sitting here having set up this new recording. Well, it's not really a new recording area so much as it is a newly pivoted, yes, thank you, recording area. Mm-hmm. If you're familiar with the normal series that we do, Coffee and Tea with Justin and Tashina, starring Justin and Tashina.
And applesauce.
And really it's
applesauce is the star.
It should be Coffee and Tea with applesauce.
Featuring
Justin and Tashina.
Yeah.
Anyway, we normally shoot from a different angle, mm-hmm. and as we've joked about previously, that angle involves completely blocking our doorway, like the entrance to our apartment, with a light and a camera. Mm-hmm. And we kind of broke everything down when I got upset and decided we were never doing another podcast ever again because I was so sad. And in putting it back together, we both kind of thought, well, this maybe doesn't make so much sense.
Yeah, we could find a different way that fits with...
Sorry, you have an eyelash right here on your face. Hold on. I got it. Okay. You're saying.
We could maybe find a way that, or Justin could find a way that fits with the flow better. And I say Justin because he's more familiar with the equipment than I am. I'm a little nervous to touch it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we have this like pass through in our kitchen area, which we've just now, basically our kitchen counter now has a camera on it and a tripod. Anyway, our neighbors are being so freaking loud. And every night I think I'm going to go over there during the day.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go up there while it's happening and be like, tell your dogs and your kid to stop throwing balls and playing fetch in the apartment. It's really freaking annoying. Because like I'm worked up. Clearly something's going on up there.
Yeah.
So I keep telling myself, oh, I'll go there during the day. And then in the day, there's no problem. And there is a problem. They're still super loud. But I just don't really think about it. I just put on my headphones and I get to work because I have other things to do. Anyway, the point is, we were going to start getting ready for bed, and I'm like, I'm just so annoyed and worked up. I would rather create something and make something positive out of this annoyed feeling that I'm feeling in my body. Release this energy in some way. I'd rather do that than just go lay in bed and be annoyed. So,
it's a good outlet.
Thank you. I'm glad you think so. So I started thinking about different things that I could do. And one of the things, because by the way, I also asked Tashina, hey, do you want to record a podcast tonight? And she said no.
That's true. I did.
That is true. So I thought, what are some ideas I could do by myself without Tashina? And I thought, well, maybe I could read a book. And then I thought, there's probably some copyright laws against just reading books on the internet.
Yeah.
Even though, so whatever. But I think there's a loophole when it's commentary.
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
Like I'm fairly certain you could take an entire movie, like people have done this with Star Wars movies, for example, and you can show massive amounts of the movie as long as you're giving commentary. I'm pretty sure you're protected. Not even necessarily over it, but like, let's say we were referencing a scene and then we put in that scene and then broke down that scene. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me. Like, don't go do this and get sued and then be like, Justin told me to do it. Okay, do your own research.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm sort of sure that's how it works.
I have no idea anymore because I feel
I really have no idea.
Yeah, I feel like too there's some general guidelines, but then I also feel like people just submit copyright claims, then YouTube's like, yep, sure. Like, I hear about that a lot.
I'm also sure that that you're a lot more likely to get hit with something if the publication or copywritten material is more popular, right?
Yeah.
Like if we did do a Star Wars movie or like...
Yeah.
Anyway, so I thought one thing I could do is take a book. I used to read a lot of self-help books. Like I basically went from reading like, I think the total was like 5 books from the time I could read, like real books, right? Obviously not like Are You My Mother? Like real books. I think like 4 or 5 books from the time I could read until the time we met, really, in like until like 2011. And then we lived next to a free bookstore and I started reading. And in that year, I read like 34 books in that year, which is kind of a lot of books to read in a year.
Yeah, to
I don't
go
know how
from
many
like
books you read in a year.
Hardly any.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's only 52 weeks in the year.
Yeah.
So that was a lot. And in a lot of the books we've gotten rid of, but in some of the books I've kept, and I have some that are highlighted and underlined, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to go through this book and just look at some of these passages that I've highlighted or underscored and read them and then talk about maybe why I think, and again, when I came up with this idea, I was not expecting Tashina to be here. So I still think this will be fun. I mean, I think it'll be better, really, because it won't be me just talking to myself.
Yeah.
However, I should say, keep in mind that's where this idea came from.
Also, real quick, I like the applesauce is just sitting behind you.
She has found a way to be slightly involved.
Yeah.
That's adorable. Maybe can you pull that chair closer to you so she can get up there with you?
Yeah.
Look.
Applesauce.
Mama has a chair for you. Okay. I don't know. It worked.
There we go.
Okay. Finally, the whole cast is here. So this book is called The Seasons of Life, and it's by Jim Rohn. And if I remember correctly, this is actually more or less a transcript of a speech that he gave.
Oh.
And when you flip through the book, you can kind of tell there's a lot of pictures and just not a lot of like writing. And anyway, Jim Rohn, if you're not familiar, rest in peace, was some people called him a business philosopher. Some people called him a success philosopher. If you've ever heard of Tony Robbins, regardless of how you feel about Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn was his mentor. Back in the day when like personal development was first getting started, he was like one of those people to bring it into kind of like what I would call contemporary culture.
Yeah.
Because there are, obviously these principles, some of them go back a long time. But he, along with a handful of other people, were really kind of bringing them, again, into mainstream culture. And when you hear a lot of this, I mean, I don't know, I don't remember what's in this book, but a lot of what he talks about is stuff that if you listen to any sort of personal development, especially business stuff, you're going to be like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that thing that all these people say is actually a Jim Rohn quote.
Yeah.
Here's a great example. That line that's, it gets kind of muddled and confused, but basically that line, you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, that is that was coined by Jim Rohn.
Interesting.
Now, whether or not there was some philosopher back in the day who said that, and even Jim Rohn says, I had a mentor, he's the one who taught me all this, but that guy was kind of around like even before cassette tapes, right? Because Jim was pretty old. He was doing a lot of his teachings in like
8-track.
Well, I was going to say in like the 70s, 80s, 90s, and then I believe he died in the 2000s. Anyway, so I don't really remember where I was going with that, other than just to say that there are a lot of Jim Rohn quotes that are said as just sort of like common things without being attributed to him. So, without any further delay, what say you we jump into this book?
Yeah, and the book is The Seasons of Life.
Right, The Seasons of Life by Jim Rohn. Okay, let's see where the first underscored thing is. Apparently, okay, here's the first passage. What we are and what we have slowly brought upon ourselves. So I think kind of something else that's going to be interesting is that I remember specifically at the time I highlighted and kind of made notes in this book, I was so familiar with Jim's work in speeches and books that I was like, oh, is this going to make sense? Because like later on, if I don't have all this context fresh in my mind, but I think this one plays pretty well. What we are and what we have slowly brought upon ourselves. Let's discuss. I mean, did you just take a drink? Sorry.
It's okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, to me, he's basically just saying, like anything, for example, like me, I'm very out of shape. I'm not saying like I don't have like a body image issue. I'm not saying that like I hate myself, or I mean, I'm not particularly happy with my body, but that's not the point. The point is, you don't wake up one day and suddenly go, oh, what's happened here? It's brought on by years and years and years of not riding my bike. Not like even though I'm vegan, I eat not super healthy, right? Like there are days when I don't eat a salad. There are days when I don't eat any fresh food. Yeah. And this isn't any judgment on anyone's, like, I'm not trying to preach here about how you should live your life. I'm just saying, for me, it's things don't just happen overnight. Yeah. And I think that it's in the positive as well. This whole overnight success thing is always fascinating to me when you hear people's real stories, because there's really no such thing as an overnight success. Like you hear about these people who fought day and night and day and night and day. And when there is like some random overnight success, like they're a total outlier. Yeah. Like nobody just becomes an overnight success because of one tiny piece of work that they did. Although, actually, here's kind of a funny story about an outlier. I was listening to the Scrubs podcast. I think it's called Real Friends, Fake Doctors. Yeah. And they were talking about a friend of Zach Braff's who, I don't think it was their theme song, but I think it was a song in the show. And this person had written a song in the show and like got popular. And he was a friend of Zach's. And Zach said that at the time when this song like got big, this dude was like literally sleeping on Zach's couch, and people were like, great, this song's awesome, what else do you have? And the dude was like, that's literally the only song I've ever written, and then had to like write an album so that
Wow.
he had something to give to, I guess, record labels or whatever. So that being said, massive outlier. Like in general, that's just not how it works.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that like viral internet culture sort of helps to solidify this thought that people can just have this one thing and blow up. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's possible. But for most people, that's not how it is.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, my thoughts on it is that who we are and what we are is our own creation, for better or worse, but that also means you have complete control over it. You have the influence to sway who you are and what you are. And like, I think there's something really powerful in that. Because if there's something you're unhappy with, it's in your power to change it. If there's something you want, it's in your power to, you know, to the best of your abilities, put things into place so that that comes to you. Like, can you control everything out there? No, but you can control yourself.
Right. This is not to say that there isn't systemic oppression. Like, obviously, people have it easier than other people.
Yeah.
Like, this is something that is, like, super, super apparent to me, which is I'm an off-white male. I was born in Northern California. Like, those two things alone are like, I basically won the lotto of being born into privilege without doing anything. Like, just by being a white man, I could literally, like, smoke crack, go totally off the map for like 3 years, and then just like get a nice haircut, get a suit, and come back.
You can Charlie Sheen it.
I have no idea what that means. Wasn't he popular before he kind of went off the deep end, though? Yeah,
that's true.
My point is, like, I could still get probably a regular job.
Yeah.
Like, I could probably do all that and come back and get a better paying job than somebody like a person of color, just because of the color of my skin and because I'm what society would say is a male and what I would, I identify as male. So anyway.
So I agree with that. But more of what I meant was that you can't control what other people say, what other people do, and that there's power for yourself in acknowledging that. Like, you can only control what you do, and you control your life, and beyond that is not something that you have power over.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to devalue what you were saying or put a qualifier on it.
Yeah, I know.
I guess I was kind of trying to put a qualifier on it.
Yeah.
Go on. You're saying?
I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
I think you were saying that you kind of make your own destiny regardless of what other people's opinions are.
Yeah, I mean, just that, like, if there's something you really want from life, you can put in your steps for it. If other people are part of why it doesn't happen, that's not something you can control.
Keep going. I'm listening. I'm going to just grab water for us both.
Okay. So all you can do is just control your part of it and focus on that. So, like, anytime there's something where, like, let's say you're working towards something and someone else is upset and there are roadblocks put in your way by someone else, those roadblocks are not your responsibility. They're not your fault. And there are things that you might have to overcome because of them, but like the creation of them is not your responsibility. Like, it's not because of you. I
would totally agree with that.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask if that made sense.
Yeah, I mean, I agreed with what you were saying before.
Yeah, I didn't think that you disagreed.
Okay.
I didn't think that you disagreed. I just felt like the point that you made was not the point I was trying to make. So I wanted to express what the point I was trying to make was.
Totally missed that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. I think it's a valuable point. Totally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, I like that this thing has this rubber thing on it. I just realized I don't need a coaster. I can just put it on things. It's got a built-in coaster, dude. It does. Maybe on wood, I won't set it down like this because of condensation. But right now, that's like, I would say that's a better coaster than our real coasters. Do you have more thoughts you want to express, or should we move on?
We can move on.
Okay, this next one's kind of long. What we have been is an established and unchangeable fact. What we can yet become is an unlimited, boundless opportunity. Therefore, do not allow your awareness of past difficulty or failures to adversely affect your current and future possibilities. The greatest value of the past is how wisely we invest it in the future. Let the past be a servant for marking the future, both more enjoyable. Oh, sorry. I misread
Sorry, I'm not
that.
laughing at you. Applesauce just wedged herself under there and got stuck.
I know you weren't laughing at me. I was ignoring it intentionally because I knew you weren't laughing at me.
Okay.
So that last line, sorry, I misspoke. Let the past be a servant for making the future both more enjoyable and profitable. Yes, Tashina, what can I do for you?
She just took one of your bike parts and ran down the hall with it, and I don't know what it was.
I'm not terribly concerned with it right now.
Okay.
I appreciate you letting me know. Mm-hmm. I'm sure both she and the bike part will be fine.
Okay. I just wanted to let you know.
I appreciate that. Do I need to reread that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it was kind of long, so I think rereading it will benefit everyone. Also, thank you, Applesauce, for rather than laying in this chair like you normally do and being a part of this, being incredibly distracting.
Yep. Stealing bike parts, running away with them.
What we have been is an established and unchangeable fact. What we can yet become is an unlimited, boundless opportunity. Therefore, do not allow your awareness of past difficulties or failures to adversely affect your current and future possibilities. The greatest value of the past is how wisely we invest it in the future. Let the past be a servant for making the future both more enjoyable and profitable. Thoughts?
Okay, I don't really like that he says the past is like a fact because I feel like it's all open to interpretation. But I think I agree with the basic gist of it, which is that you can accept your past and learn from it and move forward. And I think a lot of times, I mean, everyone has made mistakes in their past. Everyone has done things they regret, things they don't feel good about. And the best thing to do is to acknowledge that with yourself and move forward in a positive way. I think.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that. I will also add that I completely love that you brought up that the fact that the past is not necessarily a fact, because I mean, it's no question that reality is, certain aspects of reality are subjective.
Yeah.
And I think that as like a child, for example, a 6-year-old child does not have the same references as an adult.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that 6-year-olds aren't intelligent. I'm just saying they don't have the same references.
Yeah.
And they don't have the same context for things. So something might be a fact to someone who's 6 years old, and then later they move on and they think this about other people or the world or themselves. And you're like, when did you form that belief?
Yeah.
And how small was your world? How small was your context? How few references did you have when you formed that? So yeah, I totally agree with you that the past is not a fact.
Yeah.
I will also say, though, some things are.
Yeah, some things are.
Like if you have a business that goes out of business, it is a fact. So, yeah. But yeah, I think that it's incredibly valuable, like you said, to keep in mind that, hey, you might have thought this thing about yourself, but like,
yeah.
you could be completely wrong. Like,
Yeah.
don't believe everything you think.
No, or someone might have thought it about you, and that has so much baggage tied to it aside from whatever their point of view is. And their standpoint was that, yeah, I think the past is not necessarily fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Okay. Oh, there actually. So there's an analogy for this that I had thought of years ago about riding motorcycles, because I was riding motorcycles at the time. But now the analogy that I use for myself on this kind of thing, which is kind of fascinating to me because I haven't thought about this book in so long, it's fascinating to me that I'm still running these analogies based off of this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And one of those analogies that I was literally thinking about this morning as I was... So, okay. I like to race drones on the internet. Mm-hmm. And today, as I was racing, and I'm not great yet, so I make mistakes, obviously. And I had made a mistake, and then I was going through the next corner.
Yeah.
And granted, sometimes when you make a mistake, it sets you up not as great for the next part of the track, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously the analogy is that like the track is life.
Yeah.
But the more I was caught up on the previous mistake, the more it would impact further down the track. And the less likely I was to make a quick recovery, calm down, and be able to get my line back.
You're bringing it with you everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And so I kind of feel like, to me, that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
In this part of the book.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay, great. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. I think that, did that light just flicker? I think it did. Okay, wow, yeah. This was also a problem I had, is that I would just I'd be like, this entire half of this page is important. So the next portion here that I had marked.
I don't know if we're going to get through this whole book.
Oh, no way we're not going to get through this whole book. But I'll probably, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
It's fun to reflect on. Mm-hmm. It's reminding me of how much I love this book and this type of content.
Yeah. Which is good right now.
Absolutely. So I might reread this book. Mm-hmm. I might continue doing this series. I would love for you to join me, but if you don't want to, that's okay too. I totally understand. I could totally sit here and talk about this stuff to myself.
Yeah.
So the next section, are we ready? Mm-hmm. By the way, just in case in the 20 minutes that we've been doing this, you ordered this book and are now reading along, we're on page 18. For those who seriously accept that they deserve and will one day achieve financial independence, let each break off the rear view mirror of their lives and concentrate upon what lies ahead. Just a quick note here, because again, I think this is one of the points in which there was context involved. I think. But there's, you've probably heard the concept of you can't drive forward looking through your rear view mirror. Okay. Let them begin their quest for achievement by taking a close inventory of those people and circumstances which today touch their lives. For it is their effect which will determine what lies ahead, what the size of the next crop will what the size of the next crop will be come next fall. So again, this is the title of this book is The Seasons of Life. Mm-hmm. Maybe I should have said this before, but it's not just a fun title. It's actually the metaphor for this entire book. Yeah. Which I know you know. Yeah. Because you've been along with me this whole journey. Have you read this?
Yeah. I've read it, and then I ordered a copy of this book for my friend Ben years ago.
Ben P?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Did he read it?
Yeah.
Oh, did you like it?
I think so. I don't remember why I ordered it for him. I think he was going through something. It was contextual at the time. A breakup,
perhaps.
I don't remember.
Leaving a company, perhaps. Starting a company, perhaps.
Maybe all of the above.
One of the many seasons of life.
Yeah, perhaps. Maybe all of them. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. So, to me, this is basically, and maybe I'm missing some nuance here, but effectively what he's talking about is just how the people in your lives can really help you and help you shape your future.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. I don't have much to add. I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
I guess, too, it's just also be mindful of, because you're creating your crop for your next season, be mindful of what elements you're putting into that.
Absolutely. Okay. Next section here. Positive human progress has its price, for surely Each gain automatically produces a loss or a sacrifice. Ooh. Ooh. That's so good. Okay. So this is one of the things I love about Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn, in one of his speeches, talks about his dad. And one of the things he says about his dad is that his dad could give a seminar in a sentence. And the example he gives specifically is that his dad says, when it's something like when it's raining, when it's raining, you can't fix the roof.
Okay.
When it's sunny, you don't need to. Which, by the way, is kind of a perfect example of the people upstairs, which is when they're being loud at night, I don't feel comfortable going up there.
Yeah.
But when they're being quiet or when it's during the day, there's not a problem, so I don't do anything.
Yeah.
So clearly I learned that lesson. Anyway, that's one of the things I love about Jim Rohn is that I feel like he does such a good job of giving this entire life lesson, this entire seminar in a single sentence. And that line, I'm going to reread it. Positive human progress has its price, for surely each gain automatically produces a loss or sacrifice.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the wine. I don't know. I just feel like that's like one of those Jim Rohn lines where you're like, yes, that one.
I mean, I think it's really accurate. Like, when you think about, okay, like if you are doing something productive, it's going to mean, you're not doing other things. So maybe you're not spending time with your friends. Maybe you're not, I don't know, like there's other stuff you're not going to be doing. And some people in your life will be understanding and fine with that, and others won't. And sometimes the sacrifice is your own resources, your own time. Other times it's, the people around you and just people not understanding. Like there's so many different ways.
Is that particular example hitting you pretty hard?
Yeah, because I think
this last year.
Longer, yeah. I think for what...
I just feel like this last year's been amplified. But go on, please.
So I think that for what, for how long I've been working on logical harmony and all the changes, like when I first switched it to cruelty-free and vegan, when I went vegan, I lost friends in real life because they were like, you've changed too much.
That was crazy.
I can't go
you went vegan and you stopped drinking as much.
Yeah, they were like, I can't go to the bar with you and order the same appetizer we used to. Like, I know for them it probably wasn't actually about that,
right,
but it was still like weird. And I feel like since then it's been so many relationships that I've had those issues with where people don't understand how much I work or how that I enjoy working on logical harmony that much, or just, different things. Like you make time for what is important to you. And when people are truly there for you, I feel like they're understanding about that. And when they're not, one, it's not about you. It's about some other thing they have going on. But two, it can really lead to a lot of sacrifices that are outside of your, they're in your control, but they're also not because they're not about you. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. I think that if we do end up doing an episode of Coffee and Tea where we talk about the 4 agreements, that whole, and I kind of feel like you touched on that earlier, but that whole concept of people's problems are not about you, no matter how convinced they are, and no matter applesauce.
She has something small, I think.
Stop it. Jeez Louise. She totally knows when she's doing something bad.
Oh, yeah. She hides.
Just come over here. Just be with us. I'm trying to do... Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Jeez Louise. Will you try to pay a little extra attention to her so she stays out of trouble?
She is such a troublemaker.
She really is. A part of it is that she's just a troublemaker. Part of it is that she loves to have fun.
Yeah, she's very much still a kitten, even though she's 6.
Totally. And then part of it is just she's like, oh, you're not going to pay attention to me? How about if I go do this? How about if I chew on this thing? Oh, I shouldn't try to eat this? Ha ha ha. Check this out.
Oh, don't chew on this power cord. Like, I'm going to put my mouth on it. I'm not biting it. My mouth's just on it.
It's like kids being like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you.
My brother and I used to play that game a lot.
Everybody and their brother used to play that game. Anyway, yeah, I think that whole thing about, just people projecting and putting things on you, and it's an interesting lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Shall we move on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to stop asking that question because I feel like I'm asking it a lot and that it's maybe not necessary. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another one. Again, kind of long one. One of the greatest challenges of life is to have both the wisdom to recognize those sources of negativity and the courage to cast them aside if necessary, which I love.
Yeah.
I love that he's put that in there, if necessary. None of us would voluntarily drink a glass of deadly poison if we knew what it was, and yet each of us has friends or relatives or business associates whose effect on us is just as deadly as the glass of poison. That. Ugh. I mean, okay. I have a lot to say about this.
Okay.
Because I have cut out and have been the person who other people have cut out of their lives. And in hindsight, I have thought of some of the people that I cut out of my life and said, that might have been a little bit rash. That, like maybe they didn't even necessarily need to be cut out. Like maybe the bridge didn't need to be burned. Maybe I could have kept them in my life and just taken a little bit of distance. And I've also thought maybe they were just going through something.
Yeah.
And I cut them out. And that wasn't really me. I mean, at the time I thought I'm being positive and only having positive people in my life. And in hindsight, I've come to think and kind of realize, like, wait, actually, I wasn't so much being good to myself as much as I was being not good to this person. And there are scenarios in which I wish I could go back in time and have instead said to these people, hey, you're going through something. Can I be there for you? I feel that a lot of times with my friend who committed suicide. And while I know you can't put that on yourself.
No.
Like, you just can't. And I also know that while I was taking, like, I sometimes I think, okay, I wasn't there as much as I could have been for them, but I was also going through my own stuff. And so in that regard, I kind of think I was. But still, like, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
That said, I think it's important because I think when a lot of people hear the, like, oh, you should cut out negative people. You're the 5 people, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You should cut toxic people out of your life. I think a lot of that, while the concept is true, I think we misinterpret it a lot. And I think that we misinterpret what a toxic person is.
Yeah.
And that it can very easily become a way of blaming other people instead of taking responsibility.
I think, too, it's also like...
Can I just finish that thought? Because it's so easy to say, this person is the problem.
Yeah.
And push them away and push them out. Instead of saying, maybe this person is the problem, but let me really look at what's going on here. Like, let me dive deep in myself and see what I might be bringing out in this person, what they might be going through. Is there a way that this can be salvaged? Like, are they really... Because I think it's pretty rare that there's somebody out there who's just a really bad person.
Yeah.
Like, do they exist? Of course they do. But, like, I don't think that we interact with truly, truly toxic people as much as we might think we do, and as much as we might think we do because it's a convenient reason to not have to do the work in the relationship and instead just be able to cut somebody out. That said, there are obviously toxic people out there. And maybe I shouldn't have said I think we don't interact with them. Maybe we do a lot. Because I do think there are a lot of broken and toxic people. But my point is just that while I think there is like this deep wisdom in being able to move on from a relationship and cut somebody out, I think there's just as much wisdom in being able to say, is this actually what I think it is? You know, like there's a difference between a friend who said something that you didn't really care for because they were kind of calling you out, when the reality is they might have been right. There's a difference between that and a partner who beats you. Like those are extreme examples. But I mean, I remember years ago, actually you and I had an argument. And I was, I'll say who it was. I was talking to Mike. And I was telling Mike about it, and I was venting to him. And Mike's like, sounds like she was right. You were kind of being an a-hole. And I was like...
That's such a Mike thing.
Dude, right?
Say. Like, Mike is so blunt and so honest.
And I was like, F Mike. Like, Mike's supposed to be my friend. He's not Tashina's friend. Like, I'm not going to talk to Mike for a couple days. Like, you know, like I was pretty upset.
Yeah.
At Mike. I'm like, I didn't ask for Mike's opinion. I was just trying to have a friend to vent to. And then I like went and took a shower and I thought about it and I was like, wow, Mike is completely right. like Mike was totally right. 100%. Like, I'm so glad that I have a friend who would call me out and say that because, wow.
And be so honest with you.
Yeah. So, anyway, I just wanted to finish that thought, but please.
Well, I think what I was going to say is it's kind of similar and kind of different, whereas I think that a lot of times people cut out people that are supposedly like quote unquote toxic because they're not constantly supporting everything they want. They're not yes men for them, basically. They challenge them in some way. And I think that that is frequently seen as toxic behavior when it's not. Like, I think it's healthy in friendships and relationships to challenge each other. Like, that's how you grow as people. You need to have that give and take. You need to have that. You need to be challenged as a person. And I think it's healthy.
Unless you're so good at challenging yourself that you don't need other people for it. But I think most people who think that are delusional.
Yeah, I don't think that's a real thing. I mean, I think it's probably, I don't know.
I think that's something that real. Like people way up there might have, but also that if you're that high up in the like level of wisdom, that you probably have also come to realize and seek out criticism.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, like I'm thinking of a few people I know of where if you as a friend are not constantly there for them, then they are like, well, they're toxic. And then I watch these people go through their life constantly dropping entire circles of friends. And they're the one common trait in everything. Right, and everyone else is toxic. Yeah. And I think that there is a lot of value.
Everyone else is toxic, quote unquote.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of value in having people around that challenge you and having people around that don't see eye to eye with you all the time. Are there definitely exceptions? Yes, of course. But I think that, I don't know. It's not always that people are toxic.
Yeah.
100%. It's that people don't want to deal with whatever they have going on, or they don't want to deal with their own thing. And I'm guilty of that too. Obviously, like I don't want to come off like, oh, I'm so much better at this because I'm not. Yeah, we've all done it. And I think it's a lot easier to look at it in a subjective context where you're not looking at yourself or your life. Like in this context where it's a quote that you're reflecting on, it's so much easier than when it's in your own life and you're looking at the people that are in your life or have been in your life.
Yeah. I completely agree. Okay. Next section, for those of you following along, we're on to page 22.
Though, you know what I just realized, though?
Tell
Depending on the volume that they have and the size of the pages, it could be a different page for them.
All right, listen.
Sorry.
Listen.
We're on...
Would you get out of here with that?
I'm just saying.
Don't.
Okay, I won't.
I mean, I meant it as a joke. Like, I don't actually think that somebody bought this book. I don't think anyone paused the recording, ordered the book, waited, got the book, and then said, okay.
But they could
unpause.
order it and be looking at it on like a Kindle or something. Anyway.
Right. Well, if they're looking at it on a Kindle, then it should be the same. Doesn't matter. It doesn't
matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
All right. There is little difference between one who has given up his life and one who has given up his hope. Dang. That's interesting. That reminds me of another Jim Rohn quote. Actually, it might have been Zig Ziglar. But the quote is, there's little difference between someone who cannot read and someone who does not read. And obviously that's an analogy for like so many other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's... I'm just going to let that one sink in. I'm not even going to like comment on that because I just feel like it's so deep and nuanced, and I just want people to just, you know. But let me reread that quote in case you forgot what it was. There's little difference between one who has given up his life and one who has given up his hope. Oh, can I tell you something else this reminds me of? This reminds me of A Man's Search for Meaning.
That's an intense book.
Yes, it is. Which is part of why I'm glad this is not an episode of Coffee and Tea. Because the whole point of Coffee and Tea is to be positive and not make us actually think about things. Sometimes you do need to.
Yeah.
I wish we had come up with a name for this because now I just want to keep doing it. Like, I might just stop doing Coffee and Tea and only do this. I might. I'm just letting you know. It might happen.
Fine, I'll have coffee in one hand and tea in the other, and me and applesauce will take it over.
Invited to this.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Well, maybe I should kind of spearhead this, and you can spearhead Coffee and Tea.
Maybe you should think about things a little more.
That was weirdly aggressive. I feel like you're threatening me.
I'm not threatening
like,
you.
Like, what? Yikes! This is. I feel uncomfortable. Anyway, it reminds me of Man's Search for Meaning, which Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl, not really sure of the pronunciation, was a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, he was a Holocaust survivor who went into the concentration camps with his wife and at least one children, and he was the only one of them to make it out alive. And he wrote this book called Man's Search for Meaning, which I have not read in probably close to a decade.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But the book it's a really powerful book.
It is.
Totally, totally worth reading. And one of the things that I recall was that he talked about how there would be these people in the infirmary at the concentration camps. And there would be these rumors about the Allied forces liberating these camps. Mm-hmm. And that basically, if it were Monday and the rumor was that next Thursday the Allied forces were going to come liberate this camp, that this person who's an inch away from death in the infirmary at this concentration camp would basically hold out and stay alive until next Thursday when the rumors were that the Allied troops were going to come liberate these camps. And then when they didn't show up, that person would die. And as he described it, give up hope, and that was the last thing that they had that they were holding on to.
It's very heavy.
Yeah. Talking about concentration camps tends to be a heavy topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think, though, honestly, like, this is such a weird thing to say, but especially given our current political circumstances and with the rise of nationalism and especially white nationalism, I think it's super important to remember that Nazis really suck.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I still don't want to swear on this podcast because I'm just trying to cut down on my swearing in general. But
yeah,
geez, like,
it's
and I feel like I think it's important to remember what happened and how people were treated and what human beings were capable of doing to other human beings because of their beliefs, because of their religions, because of their political views. So, yeah, I mean, bet you didn't know this was going to get this heavy when you agreed to sit down.
Nope.
Well, here we are.
Yeah.
I am going to record a new intro just to let people in, just to give people a little bit of a heads up.
I think, too, on a lighter take of this quote, I think it's just reminding us of how much hope and optimism we hold on to, even at times where we feel like we don't. And I think that's always good to keep in mind.
Yeah. I think also in a less nuanced, less metaphorical way, really what he's saying is that life is built on hope. Which yes, to make this more lighthearted and cheesy, I will bring up one of my all-time favorite Star Wars movies, which is Rogue One, in which the running theme, but also saying throughout the movie is that rebellions are built on hope.
Yeah. Very true. I mean, I feel like that's a running theme in Star Wars in general.
It is 100%. You're correct, and I agree. It's said verbally, which is, I just feel like takes it to another level. Quick quote here, which I think we can kind of like just blaze through because it's something that I already touched on. Although your thoughts are welcome. There are those who will laugh at those who read useful books. And yet there's little difference between those who cannot read and those who will not read. The result of both is ignorance. That, when I first heard that, really, really hit home with me because I had friends who were specifically making fun of me for reading self-help books. And I remember at the time being like, wow, this quote has somehow distilled and put into words all these things that I'm feeling, which is I'm just trying to better myself. I'm just trying to be happier. I'm trying to be a better person. I'm trying to have a better life. I'm trying to show up better for other people and for society.
Yeah.
And you are making fun of me for doing that. And anyway, that quote just really hit home for me. Thoughts on it? Or are you just going to do yoga and put yourself to sleep?
I'm stretching because my back hurts.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I have this like crick in my neck, which I'm 99% sure is being caused by the way that we sit and turn in this angle.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I liked it a lot more when we were
across.
Yeah, but without having a multi-cam setup, which we could do, but we're not going to, I think this is our best bet. I might convince you at some point later on, though, to switch seats just so that we can sort of like get our bodies to not be...
Well, for me, it's like, this angle for this.
Yeah.
For filming for Logical Harmony, I'm on like that little weird stool. And then my computer chair is this super old, worn out desk chair. I'm just not in anything that like...
Same time. Yeah. I've noticed that when I'm racing my drone, I've noticed at the end of the race, I'm like, I'm over here.
Yeah.
And I keep having to bring myself back. And then like when I'm racing, try to like not let myself drift over here.
Yeah.
Anyway. Any other thoughts on that?
No.
Okay. Well, this is sort of carrying on with the same basic idea. There are those who will frown upon those who set ambitious goals, and yet without goals, there can be no achievement, and without achievement, life will be as it has been.
So kind of just always keep pushing yourself forward.
Yeah, always keep pushing yourself forward, and don't let people who make fun of you for setting goals bring you down. I don't want to say who these people are because they're very, very close to me, and I think some of them might listen to this.
Are you talking about Bagheera?
No. But I there's a couple that I can think of. And sorry, I know it's weird. I don't actually think I have OCD, even though I have been diagnosed with it. But I do like for the glasses to be in the middle of the coasters. They don't have to be perfect, but they have to be closer to perfect than it was.
Yeah, whatever works.
Okay, great. Anyway, this couple, one of them I've seen over the years set these goals like, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to change this thing. I'm going to change that thing. And the other person is just like, whatever. You always say you're going to do something and you never do it. And it's just like, man, first of all, can you imagine having a partner who just completely does not believe in you? Mm-hmm. Like, yikes. And second of all, the person in this particular example who's doing the naysaying never does anything to change or better themselves. And it's like, you just want to bring this person down because subconsciously or consciously, you know that if they actually do this thing and they do achieve it, it might raise their self-esteem and they might realize that you suck and leave you. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of fear-based emotions that go into dragging other people down. Like fear
totally.
of not just what it means for the other person, but fear of bettering things for themselves.
I just dripped water on myself.
I know. I saw I was ignoring it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Just fear of bettering things for themselves and the uncomfortableness that comes in that.
True.
And comes with that.
Yeah.
I think that's sometimes what it is more than anything else for people is fear of the unknown and fear of being uncomfortable.
100%.
And you have to be willing to be uncomfortable to go through growth.
True.
Yeah.
It is uncomfortable.
It is.
I think that's something I've been avoiding in my life personally. There are those who will cry to those who turn away in search of a better life, and yet we must sometimes turn away from those whose effect limits us in spite of the tears. Personally, I feel like that's pretty cut and dry. Mm-hmm. Just kind of saying, hey, listen, there are going to be people who are bummed that you're... Hey, listen. Okay, if you get that reference, comment. Do you get that reference?
I forget it. You just say it all the time. Sorry.
Well, I would love to tell you, but I can't because I don't want to give it away if somebody's going to comment and, hey, listen. Hey, listen. I don't do a great impression. Man,
but
so
you've been
good.
making noises your whole life.
That's true. I love how many people caught that.
Yeah.
And then commented on it like,
Me
you've
too.
been making noises your whole life. Like, what? Like, I love that so many people were like, yeah, that's...
I thought they were agreeing with me.
No, Tashina, I think they were agreeing with me at how funny that was.
Agree to disagree.
Okay.
It's all about perception.
We learn shortcuts from increasing profits while decreasing quality. In countless ways, we wander through life, allowing people and their attitudes and ideas to mold our character. People whose attitudes and ideas have brought themselves little in the way of progress, productivity, and happiness. I love this. Okay, thoughts?
You go ahead. Just the way you said that was so enthusiastic.
Okay. What I love about this is that I find that in my own life and in a lot of people whose lives I've seen affected in a not so great way, we are taking advice from people who don't really have anything great to show. And that we don't give enough context to who gave us the advice. And we don't consider enough where the advice came from to the extent that we should, and say, wait a minute, should I really be taking life advice from this person? Should I really be taking relationship advice for this person?
Yeah.
Here's a great example. I think this happened before you and I were dating, or maybe it was at the very beginning of our relationship when we were not official. Like we weren't official, we weren't exclusive. I mean, I wasn't dating anyone. I don't know if you were.
No.
But my point is, like, if you had gone on a date with somebody else, right? Like there was a period of time in which I would have been like, oh yeah, she went and had a beer with another guy. Like that's, you know, obviously there's a point at which I would have been like, that's a little weird, like now. But, but anyway, I don't remember what the conversation was. And honestly, it may have even been before I even met you.
Okay.
The point is, I was talking to my brother about it, and I wasn't asking him for advice, but he decided to give me advice. Now, for context, I have two brothers, and the one I'm talking about is the one who started dating his wife when he was in 8th grade. In 8th grade, which means I've known her longer than, I've known her for more than half of my life, obviously. But it also means that he dated like, dated, right? Quote,
middle
unquote,
school
right,
dating.
Right. Yes, 100%, exactly. Like one or two other people. Like I want to say maybe he had like quote unquote one or two other girlfriends. So I'm like, dude, like at this point you've been with the same person for like, honestly, at that point, it'd probably been close to 10 years. I was like, why in God's name would you think I would take dating advice from you? The last time you, quote unquote, dated,
you were 12.
Like 12. Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't know anything about dating real human women. Like, what? Yeah. Now, okay, in that same regard, if I wanted to have a conversation about how do you make a long-term relationship work, how do you go through all these different stages of life and change as a person and somehow find a way to change together, then sure, he might be a perfect person to talk to about that if he talked to me. But so anyway, that was just kind of like, you know, I think it's so crucial for us to find people who have been through what we are facing, or what we're looking to go through, before we just take on their advice as gospel.
Well, and I think too, a lot of the time we look for advice from people and it's directed through our own fear. So we're purposely, and I'm not saying this is the case all the time, but I think in some situations and with some people frequently, they're looking for people to get advice from through that fear filter. They don't want someone that's going to challenge them. They don't want someone that's going to push them. They're looking for someone who's going to tell them you did everything you could. They're looking for someone who's going to tell them what they want to hear. Because again, they want to avoid the uncomfortableness of growth, either with themselves or in their relationship with that person. They want to avoid someone who's just going to call them out and say it like it is.
That reminds me of something that Gary Vee says a lot, which is effectively the only people who will listen to you complain are the people who just so deeply love you, like your family, your parents.
Yeah, your best friends.
And other losers.
Yeah.
Which is so harsh.
It's really harsh.
But it's also like, oh, yeah, if I really think about when I'm complaining and the people who will listen to that, that's true.
And encourage it.
And granted, you know, like everybody has a bad day. Everybody feels like they need to vent sometimes. Like you go through hard times. This is not to say, you know, especially with the current world situation, this is not to say that things don't get hard and that it's not okay to talk about those things.
No, because it's good to talk about things that are hard.
Right. But again, I think kind of one of the whole premises of this book is self-awareness, and that you have to know, are you going through something, or are you just complaining and because that's who you are?
Yeah, and are you going to this person because you want to grow and you want a real resolution, or are you going to them because you want someone to reassure what you're going through?
Right, but again, I do think there are times when we need that.
Yeah, totally.
So I don't want to. Yeah, Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying, like, in other times, it's good to just be aware.
It's important to know which you're doing.
Yes.
It's important. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And it's the same as, sometimes like I'll message some of my good friends and say, can I just vent for a few minutes? And like there are friends that we both do that with. And we know that like.
I don't do that actually.
What I meant, the friend and I do that with
okay.
each other.
I'm like, no, I don't have anybody.
Because we know it's something that.
Let me think. No, okay, go ahead.
Like there are certain situations in life and certain things where it's harder to find people who can relate in some ways, or people who understand, like you're just in a crappy mood and you just need to like just let it out to someone who like understands the context of what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And then you can move on and we'll start talking about something else. And I think that being aware of that, like that's something I'm aware of when I'm messaging those people. And that's how we do that is we're like, hey, can I vent for a couple minutes about this? I just need to get this out to someone who understands.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Tashina, this was wonderful. I'm out of wine, which means it's the end of the show.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for being here with me. It was such a nice surprise. I didn't expect it.
Yeah, you didn't expect it at all.
No, I really didn't. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please tell us what you thought of this episode, because personally, I feel like I want to keep doing it. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to be a regular coffee and tea thing. I think it's going to need its own name.
Okay.
And also, you need to decide whether you think you want to be a regular part of it. Because I have been feeling like there's a gap in my life with doing a podcast in the morning and feeling like I also want to be recording one at night. Mm-hmm. So let's all just think about how we feel about this. Mm-hmm. Like I said, leave a comment. Let us know. And join us for our regularly scheduled coffee and tea tomorrow morning. We love you so much. Mm-hmm. Goodbye.